I will call to order the meeting of the Districting Commission 2025. What's today? May 15th. And I will go ahead with a roll call. Commissioner Michael Blake. Here. I'll turn that up. Commissioner Stephen Francis. Here. Commissioner Art Gallo. Here. That's why I can't hear any of you. Commissioner Gene Hovey.
Here.
Commissioner Jeff Kendrick.
Here.
Commissioner Brenda Lambie.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher Riggs is absent, and City Attorney Anthony A. Garganese.
Here.
Beautiful. Before we start with anything else, I wanted to quickly do the oath of office. So if everybody could stand, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Gene Hovey,
I do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or
Do
affirm
solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
That I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida,
the Constitution of the
and
United
government of the
States
Constitution of the City of Winter Springs and the state of Florida.
that I'm duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
that I'm duly
that I'm
qualified
duly qualified to hold office under the state.
Constitution of the state.
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the Districting Commission
and
And that I will well and
And that I will well and
perform the
faithfully
duties of
perform the duties of the Districting Commission,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
And thank you so much. You can sign and return those at the end. I guess we should stay standing. We should do the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry about that. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Do you want to say something real quick?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I said hello to everyone when I walked in. And Mr. Blake in Italy, happy to hear you're having a nice trip, but thanks for joining us. I simply wanted to take a moment on behalf of all of the residents of Winter Springs and say thank you for volunteering your time and serving your community. Although this is hopefully a nice short, you have 2 or 3 meetings, I think, historically. Hopefully it doesn't eat a lot of your time. It's still important work, and I really appreciate you serving the residents and giving up your time. I planned on leaving the room so you guys can kind of talk, but I just wanted to say thank you from all the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Traditionally, at this point, our city attorney would give a brief orientation of the duties of the Districting Commission and any other topics he may want to cover at this beginning, and then we can go into some of the other formalities. But do you have anything for us, Anthony?
Certainly. I just want to, welcome you to the Districting Commission. Districting Commission is a body that is required by city charter to be appointed by the City Commission every 3 years. The sole purpose of the Districting Commission, and it's a short life, is to review the district boundaries for the 5 city commissioners. And I think you're all familiar with, we have 5 city commissioners, there are 5 district boundaries, and the job for the Districting Commission is to take a look at the population statistics every 3 years in the 5 districts, and to try to have as close as possible of mathematical precision. There needs to be relatively equal populations in each of the districts, and there's a margin that we strive for, and that is the district. You usually find like a median population that's called an optimal population that we strive for, and the district with the most voting age population and general population should not be any higher than 5% than the optimal population, and the district with the lowest population should not be more than 5% lower than the optimal population. So you have this target that you strive for to try to equal the populations. And that's, this exercise is because of voting rights and making sure that, you know, there's proper representation for the districts. Now, Winter Springs isn't a single-member district for voting purposes. The city of Winter Springs just has districts for purposes of locating a commissioner. Okay, well, their place of residence has to be in a certain district. So it separates the you know, the commissioners in the 5 districts. Some communities that I represent where you actually, the voters in that district only vote in that district, right? We still have all at-large elections in Winter Springs, but the commissioners have to run and qualify for office in one of the 5 districts. So now your consultant is going to do a presentation, and the consultant is going to tell you and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's going to show you what the current population counts, voting age population and general population, is in each of the districts. And what will become obvious to you this time is that one of the districts, I think it's District 3, exceeds that 5% number that I told you from optimal. So it throws off the population slightly. So the boundaries of the districts now will have to be adjusted somewhat so we can get within that range that we're looking for, no greater than 5% higher than the optimal population and no lower than 5%. Yes.
But again, so because everybody can vote, regardless of district, the only real thing that it impacts is where the commissioner could be from.
Absolutely, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So we move the boundary a couple of streets, it just means that if you happen to live on that boundary line before, now you're District 2, not District 3 or something.
Right, and if you wanted to qualify for commission, you know, you have to determine which district you're in. Of course, one of the things that is looked at when we do this is we try not to change the boundaries, so we kick one of the existing commissioners out of their district. So I think the alternatives, the proposals that are going to be presented by the consultant, none of the proposals kick an existing commissioner out of their district. So you can be assured of that.
Sir, assuming that we do have 4 scenarios here, and plus the original, what the districts are now. Assuming that every one of these scenarios meets the spirit and intent of the law, what are we looking for when we decide on which one of these different scenarios? Why would we want one over the other? I mean, I would like to know what I'm really looking at.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're going to look at a couple of things when the consultant puts all the maps up. Is one, you know, from a mathematical standpoint, right? Which map makes the populations most equal? That's one. Okay, but you have a range, right? Because you're not required to have complete mathematical precision, like 1,000 people in each of the districts, for example. Another factor that you're going to look at is, well, how many chess pieces have to move, right, to make the necessary adjustment to fall within that range? Meaning, are you going to make a lot of changes to the district boundaries, or are you going to look for a map that maybe just changes a couple of boundaries but gets you in the range, so not to do more violence to the existing district boundaries, so to speak, for lack of a better term? So that's a couple of things that you're going to look at. And it depends on what you have to balance it. You know, population, equality, changing district boundaries. You know, what does that do? You know, is it too violent of a change, or you try to be more minimalistic and get within the range? You know, I think those are all legitimate concerns. Another thing that you look at too, and that's, I don't think it's going to be an issue here, is you start looking at where those lines are drawn. You know, are they being drawn properly? Are they following streets? Are they following natural boundaries like creeks, right? things like that. Do they, those are some of the districting, criteria that you do when you draw the boundaries. But you need to keep in mind, the boundaries that you see, the chess pieces that you play with to move the lines is going to be based on a census block, right? So the census blocks are drawn by the federal government. So you're playing with those blocks, trying to move the lines and try to get the population in that range. So it's not, you don't try not to do, in probably more than most cases, is to divide census blocks. That's not a good map-making approach.
Yeah, I was just looking for some advice on, well, why would we pick one scenario over another, and I'm sure
Yeah, you're gonna see
we'll discuss all that.
population equality, number of changes to the district boundaries. If you're just looking at the maps and the populations, of course, if you want to look at the total picture here, there's a political gerrymandering goes on all over the country, right? So sometimes they use, politics to draw boundaries, and comes with the territory. And at the end of the day, once you make your recommendation, it has more power than just a recommendation, a general recommendation that our advisory boards. This is not an advisory board. Once you make this recommendation, the commission can accept or reject, but if they reject, it has to be based on, some fundamental, like, legal principles. So, the commission, is not completely handcuffed, but they got one cuff on, when you're making this recommendation.
I had a question also. How often do we vote as far as like what we're doing now? How often does it happen? Is that once a year or is that?
The redistricting occurs every 3 years pursuant to city charter.
So my second question is, when you're taking things into consideration, are we also looking at possible like growth within that area since it's every 3 years?
No.
Okay.
Now, it can be keep it in the back of your mind when you're looking at the population adjustments, right? But, I mean, some districts have a higher chance of population growth than others. What we do, though, is, and the consultant will get into this, we do look at, we get the population statistics from certain sources, right? Traditionally, it starts at the census, right, the last census. But as you know, we're now, 5 years out from the last census? So there are additional data sources that the consultant will use to get, current populations. And even that's not complete. It may not factor in certificates of occupancy that have been issued for buildings. So you'll see that in the report as well. They extrapolate a population based on certificate of occupancies after the date of the last data source to try to get the most accurate populations that we can at this time. Now, nothing's perfect, but that's, that gets us closer, right, to accuracy.
So construction that we know is going to happen, but that doesn't come into play at this point.
That does not come into play at this point. That's a little too speculative, right? Or, something in the permitting process. Certificate of occupancies, on the other hand, are used because the housing unit has been certified for occupancy. So you're presuming that, people are going to be residing there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The consultant's presentation has pictures and all. That's far more interesting than mine, so you may
If
want to turn
there's-
it over.
Yeah. Any other questions at this time for Anthony? Okay. If not, we can move on to picking a chairperson to run the meeting. So anybody is eligible to be chairperson, and anybody is eligible to make a nomination for chairperson. Upon hearing a nomination. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Clerk, Michael Blake here. I would like to nominate Art Gallo as chairman.
I'll second that.
Okay. And Mr. Gallo, I assume you accept.
Thank you, Commissioner Blake. Yes, I accept.
All right.
But I just want to tell
It does not come with any pay. Art.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I just want to say, this is my first time I've ever done this, so,
You'll be fine.
okay.
Be fine.
Thank you.
Is there any other nomination? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Gallo serving as chairperson for the 2025 Districting Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, congratulations, Mr. Gallo. And then you can take over if you want. We have to also choose a vice chairperson.
Okay, anyone interested in being vice chair?
I'll nominate Jeff Kendrick.
I'll nominate Gene Hubby.
Oh. Stop that. Jeff, you can do it.
Okay. All right, any other nominations? Okay, Christian?
All right, hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Commissioner Kendrick serving as vice chair for the 2025 Districting Commission, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Congratulations.
Hearing none. Thank you.
This is a paying position.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that work is done. No awards or presentations, informational agenda, and we do have public input on the agenda. Anyone from the public would like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none? Okay. We'll move past public input and we'll move to the consent agenda. Public hearing, the regular agenda. Item 503. Presenting the Districting Commission with a recommendation for the 2025 City Commission district boundaries. And, okay, we have a presenter. Sir, please state your name and.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Parker Hines, and I'm a GIS and Planning Analyst at the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. And I will be giving you guys a brief overview of our analysis of the City of Winter Springs Commission districts. So Anthony kind of already touched on this, but per Section 2.04 of the City Charter, you're required to reassess the Commission districts every 3 years, which falls to 2025, which is why we're here. And then pursuant to federal law, these are the deviations at the second bullet point. So 10% is when we talk about the least and most populated district. We don't want those two deviating over 10%. And then for all districts, they can't deviate further than 5% from the optimal value. And in the slide, we also have the optimal values for the voting age population and also the total population. So for the voting age population, that was 6,192. And then for the total population, it was 7,825. And due to disproportionate growth, that initiated the redistricting process and the need to redraw district boundaries. So right here, I just have two tables, the top one showing voting age population, the bottom one showing total population, just the statistics and how we calculated these populations. So if you look at the first column in each of these tables, that's our baseline population that we are working with based off of the census data. And then in that second column, we can see the populations that are added for each district. And then in the middle, we get our new populations that we calculated. And in the bottom, that's the total population and voting age population for the city, and that's what we divide by 5 to get those optimal values. So then if we look at the last column, that's where we're looking for those deviations and whether they exceed that 5% and 10%. So looking at the voting age population, we can see that all districts fall within that 5% required threshold, and then also falls within that 10% threshold as well. But then when you look at total population, we can see, as Anthony said, in District 3, it exceeds that 5% threshold, and then also that 10% threshold when we're talking about the least and most populated districts. So how did we get here and how do we do the calculation? So first and foremost, it was necessary to obtain all necessary data from city staff, so that included city boundaries, the existing commission district boundaries, and then also certificates of occupancy. And then we paired that with the 2020 census data, which due to COVID, I believe, actually finished in 2021, just a caveat. But we then did the analysis at the census block level, so we didn't split any census blocks, anything like that. But we calculated the new total population, voting age population at the census block level, and then we compiled that by the existing commission district boundaries, and that's how we found that we were falling outside of that deviation. So for the total population for each census block, we were multiplying the number of certificates of occupancy by the census designated persons per household for Seminole County, which was 2.54. So that's how we calculated that total population per census block, and again, compiled that. And then the same for voting age population, except there was a percentage in that equation. So we took, within each census block, we took the voting age population, so 18 years and older, divided that by the total population, and that's how we got that percent per census block. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know if this is live Q&A, but.
Yeah, you're good.
It says like added, since when was added versus what, when was that? It's like VIP added or new VIP?
Yeah, so that's the, are you talking about right here in the
Yeah.
second column?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the populations we're adding. So that's what I'm talking about right now, based off of our analysis at the census block level, and we're calculating those new voting age populations. We compiled that by the existing commission district boundaries. So for example, District 1, we were adding a population of 15, based off of compiling all those census blocks for that district.
They just seem low, right? Like, I was like,
Well, you're talking about from from 3 years prior.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and the certificates of occupancy, the date range for that was from February 2021 up until September of 2024 when we began our analysis.
so we're assuming 15 people moved in to District 1 since the 2020 census.
Yes, yeah.
But
For
400
District 1, yeah.
Yeah, 400 people moved into District 2.
Yep.
I got you.
Well, that's a net.
And
It
that's,
could be 15 lost, 30 gained, but a net of 15. Is that what that means?
Well, yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's a net, yeah.
Yeah, it's a net, okay.
and that column there is just for a voting population, right? And the other column is, well, down below is for total population.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I separated the tables by voting age population and total population.
Yeah, that's where that was my initial question. So
Okay.
we think 731 people moved to Winter Springs in the last 5 years. Just seemed low, right? Is that right? That's how I should interpret that? The sum of total population added, you don't have it down?
Yeah, that's what we calculated, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, from the certificates of occupancy.
because other people are just kind of in and out. I got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that is interesting. That means, yeah, 731 added on top of those, more people came than left, I guess.
Yeah, based on my wife's classroom, I would have thought it would be much more. but
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm good. I'm
All
set
right.
with the data. Thank you.
All right,
Sorry
perfect.
for diverging.
Yeah.
part.
All right, are we all on the same page now? Yeah, we're good? All right, cool, I'll move on.
Can you just explain the percentages so I'm sure I understand the 5% limit and the 10% limit for me?
Yeah, so that's based, so if you look at the new voting age population, the third column in the top.
Right.
So we base that population that we calculated for District 1 and find the percent difference from that optimal value of 6,192. And that's the percentage that you're seeing in that last column.
So when they take the total divided by 5, that difference column is what the new value is versus the average of the 5. And then they show it as a,
Okay, so those differences can't be more than 5%.
Correct, yes.
correct. But what throws it off is if the bottom there, you got a negative 5.6, but then you got a positive 4.95, so the net sum of that's over 10.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. All right, so where was I? So I think I explained how we did it at the census block level. We compiled all that to get the new populations. And that's how we determined that we fell outside of those thresholds. So once that was determined, we decided we were going to be using redistricting for ArcGIS. And that's just a free extension or tool that we can use with Esri software. And kind of like Anthony was explaining, it allows us to move census blocks from one district to another. And it's got like statistics, updating in real time in a table, so we can see if we're getting closer or further away from those deviations. So that's how that was completed. And as we were doing this, there was a strategy, so we were looking for like natural barriers, trying to maintain cohesion and contiguity between the districts. So looking for main roadways, I believe I used Winter Springs Boulevard, State Road 434 kind of as natural breaks between those barriers, and then also a creek, and I believe a trail as well, so.
What are those little dots on there mean?
Yeah, so in this map, these are our existing commission districts along with the certificates of occupancy that we use for the analysis. So as you can see, there's quite a few in District 2, District 5, and then kind of spread out throughout the rest of the city. Right. So this is our first scenario that we
Wait, I have,
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
you're saying those black dots represent certificates of occupancy.
Yes.
For housing units.
So wherever there's not, a black dot was not a change in any certificate of occupancy. So because every house in the city, to live it, you have to have a certificate. I guess I'm not understanding this.
Right, so that's included in the census data. So the census data that we use was census blocks, and then within that, we had the total populations and the voting age populations within that data. And that was completed with the 2020 census, and we're building off of that based off of the certificates of
It's
occupancy.
only the new COs.
Those are new
So these
ones.
are only the new ones since the last time we did this?
Yes, yes.
That's where the new 730 people came.
That, Mr. Gallo, that are not accounted for in the census.
Okay.
So you have to, factor that in, because we're between census.
Gotcha. All right. So scenario one, these are our proposed districts. Something to note, District 5 was the most populated district, excuse me. So it was difficult to kind of take away from that one because it's right in the middle and touches all other 4 districts. So it was difficult to maintain that cohesion and contiguity. So many times you're going to see that big L-looking census block, that group of census blocks being absorbed by District 1. But that was just the most viable option to meet those deviations, so.
Can you go back to the other one again? Okay, thank you.
Yes. And we do, once I go through the rest of the scenarios, we do have like an interactive map where we can zoom in, look
Okay.
at the changes, and look at satellite imagery and stuff like that. So scenario one, we can see there's a few changes between District 2, District 3, following, I believe it's Winter Springs Boulevard and Northing Way.
Yeah.
And then up there in District 4 and District 1, we kind of, we shifted that one into District 4 just based off of State Road 434.
So how do I read this here again? So how do, you can see what the change is right there?
Yeah. So that's my fault. The outlines in red represent what has changed from the existing commission districts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I would read, like D2 used to be encompassing that blue that's in D1 now?
Right. Yeah.
Like the overlap.
D3.
Yes.
The
Yep.
blue and D3.
Yeah.
So D2 used to come down there, but now it's a part of, oh, that's D3 down there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the colors
That's
are
us.
the.
I should know that one.
Yeah. So the colors represent the proposed districts and everything in red. So like in District 3 where there's, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, District 2 now is gained from District 3.
Right.
Basically between Trotwood Boulevard and Winter Springs Boulevard.
Correct.
That little area, okay.
Yes.
And looks like District 5, ranch lands kind of gobbled
Yes.
up a little bit from District 1, or 1 got a little bit of the ranch lands, okay.
Yes.
And then the chart then,
Yeah, so the chart to the right shows the statistics kind of similar to the 2 tables I showed on the other slide, but for this particular scenario. So you can see the voting age population in that first column, and then its deviation from the optimal. So it's falling within that 5%. And then the one in bold on the bottom, that's between the least and most populated districts. So we're falling under the 10% as well.
yeah, I guess I was kind of looking for a deviation versus the initial chart. Like, do all districts get touched in that scenario or just 3? I can't tell.
There are changes to all districts, yeah, in this scenario. All right.
But we only really need to touch 2, right?
Just touch 2 districts.
Yeah, the way I'm reading is anything with a red line around it, that's what changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's right. Sorry.
You had to
No,
give
you're
and
good.
take to make the lines.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd
Right.
be more than 2.
Right.
Effective.
Gotcha. So this is scenario 2. Again, same idea. There's a few, not as many changes in regard to District 2 and District 3. But again, we're taking that larger one from District 5, just as it was the most viable option. Again, the statistics in the right.
Yeah, and so maybe back to that first chart, right? So the only area where something is off, right, is District 3, correct?
Right.
Which slide are you on now?
Like the only trigger here that says we should change anything is that box right there, correct?
Yeah, but I will say, when we were using redistricting for ArcGIS, you'll move one and it kind of shifts everything else. So then it's going to shift other districts.
Right.
Yeah, but does District 3 butts up to District 5?
Right.
Yeah. one of the scenarios just has a 3-5 boundary change?
District 3, no, but this one right here has the least amount of changes. There wasn't any one where we just switched from either.
that scenario
those
3?
This is scenario 3, yeah. And important to note with this one, this has the least amount of changes from the existing commission districts currently.
Yeah, just
For
two
the
changes.
largest, for the
Three
optimal.
changes, yeah.
There's three in
The
there somewhere?
largest for the optimal.
There's a little,
And yeah, District 2 takes one census block from District 5.
Does
And then-
he,
Oh, I
does
see.
he have a clicker?
Yeah, with the red.
Here.
Is there a laser on this?
There we go.
My bad. Yeah. Apologies for that. That would have been useful.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Oh, that's the new townhome.
And then this is our last scenario, scenario 4. And important to note with this one, this provides the most equal districts in regard to voting age population. So the deviations for each district regarding voting age population for this scenario, they're all under 1%. Yes. So if you want, I can go back to any others, or we can open up that interactive web app to take a deeper dive.
Mr. Chairman?
Art, that's you.
Yes, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you. Just two questions, please. First off, do any of these 4 scenarios draw out an existing city commissioner?
No.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
So each of the alternatives continue to have each of the sitting 5 commissioners in their appropriate districts.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's what our lawyer said when at the beginning, that none of our commissioners were to be impacted by any of these district changes that are proposed.
You know, so I think we can do that, but we probably shouldn't, and I'm not advocating that we do.
Agree.
So my take on this, in reviewing each of the 4 different scenarios, scenario 4 provides not only the most even population current districts in the current voting age population, but also represents the smallest net change of only 0.98%. That would be the largest change of any individual district. And so with that, I think one of the things we endeavor to do here is as little damage as possible. And so I would tend to suggest to the committee that alternative 4 would provide us with the most level districts in terms of voting age population and would create the smallest deviations or variances from our current position to what would be proposed. And so I would certainly propose or support adopting version 4 or scenario 4.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'd like to see 4 again, but I think we should take a minimalistic approach to it and do, the least amount of change to accomplish our goal. And is that 4 right there?
Yes.
Okay. There was one with a little less.
I thought option
scenario.
2, scenario 2 was very similar.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I'm amenable to.
Option 1 is, the option 1 provides for 1.66% change in a district. Option 2, the same 1.66% change.
Okay.
Option 3, the smallest, or rather the most impactful change is 3.86%, and option 4 is only 0.98%. So about 2/3 the amount of change of the next lowest 2 in terms of voting age population. Okay. That on top of the fact that the voting age population is the most even or has the least amount of variance between the 5 districts. And the fact that it is the smallest change from the current lines based on, again, voting age population, I think makes it the most efficient and least controversial and probably the most defensible change.
Yeah, I was looking at that in scenario 4 and 2 for districts 2 and 3, I think are exactly the same. Well, let me see.
2 and 4, I think were the same.
Yeah, 2
option
and 4, scenario 2 and 4, to me, it looks like District 2 and 3, whatever changes are made are the same. So I was liking 2 and 4 myself, so.
And can you show us on 4 where the changes are again with the,
This is 4, correct?
Yes, this is 4. So District 2 took this one in the bottom right corner. District 3 took this grouping of census blocks. District 2 took this group. Again, this one was absorbed in District 1, this one up to 4, and then this was the change right here. That was absorbed by 5.
Are you saying you want to see the aerial, the satellite?
no, that, so,
There is somewhat considerable change to this one, but the
Right.
percentages.
The
bring it in
percentages-
line the
yeah.
most.
So there's quite a few changes in regard to census blocks in scenario 4, but it provides the most equal districts in regard to voting age population.
Okay.
But the least amount of changes is scenario 3.
Right.
Yeah.
and what's the difference between 3 and 4 with the voting block? I mean, the voting numbers?
It's just that scenario 3, the deviations are going to be greater for
Okay.
some of the districts.
Okay.
Yeah. Still falling within that 5% though.
Yeah,
With a
so,
threshold.
Actually, I'm sorry, I would disagree. I think scenario 3 actually has more significant changes. If you look at the deviation numbers with respect to the voting age population,
I think we're talking
we
about
have
the movement of
4
the line.
districts that are in excess of 3% change, whereas under scenario 4, there's not a single district that's over 1% change in deviation. So
but that's deviation
I would
versus
think that actually
average.
scenario 3 would have the greatest level of changes of all 4 scenarios.
We were looking at 2 different things. I completely understand where you're coming from. We're just looking at the changes in the drawing of the line. There are only 2 in number 3, and there's a lot in 4.
Lines
But
are-
4 brings it down to
But with all
a
due
much more
respect-
even.
Yeah, but with all due respect, lines are just lines, right? The only thing that matters here in our charge is to focus on voting age populations. It's the population that is voting that we, I think, have a charge to be most even within the districts. If you look at geographic lines, that's how you attain those measurements with respect to voting age population, but it has nothing to do with land area or where those lines are located.
Commissioner, I don't disagree at all. I completely agree with you, actually. We were just talking about 2 different things, and we started to conflate the 2. So that's why I separated them. But I don't disagree with you at all.
Okay, and I'm just trying to move in the direction of what you know, the duties of the committee are in with respect to evaluating how populations might have shifted within the district areas and how we draw those lines in order to provide for relatively even districts within the requirements of the law.
Could we bring up scenario number 4 and drill down into some of the changes, especially involving Districts 1 and 5? Those seem to be like the most changes there, looking at just where the lines are drawn.
So those last 2 boxes. Yeah.
Look at those 2 districts first, then we can move to the other 2 real quick.
Is there anywhere in particular you'd like to zoom around to?
Probably specifically where the changes
Yeah, the
are,
changes,
so we can at least
So-
see
your
where
red
the roads-
boxes.
Or did you want to zoom out to all of them so you could see them all?
Yeah, I was interested in starting on districts 1 and 5. Those are the weirdest changes there, and those red line boxes.
Yeah, to what Commissioner Blake and I were just discussing, it was really, number 4 moves it creates a much more even distribution of voting age population, but it takes a lot more drawing of the
Yeah.
lines to get there. So that's the two different things. But-
Yeah, I
Right.
get it. I just was interested in what the lines looked like. I couldn't tell when I blew this thing up.
No problem.
What streets we were talking about and where in the city, that's all.
And I just also want to mention, this census block is large, but there's a lot of green space there, which makes that change look physically larger than it actually is.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my curiosity, just want to make sure we're not doing something that we don't want to do. If there's any questions, speak up. Okay.
Zooming here. Some of these lines look better than maybe the initial lines were, you know?
Yeah. The other, I think over in zone between District 1 and 4, if you go to the left a little bit there, yeah, there you go. Now is that where the new construction eventually is going to be, around in that place? Oh, that might be too far away from 1792.
I don't think so. I think there's already dwellings built out there. Because,
Are you
yeah,
talking about the senior area?
Yeah,
The-
yeah, yeah.
They've stopped working on that, so who knows when that'll be done.
Oh, okay, didn't know that.
Is
The
there
weeds
any-
are 3
We
feet
need to look in
high.
arrears anyway.
Yeah.
Is there any
Yeah.
expense we
I
need to be
agree.
aware of with moving lines when we're, like, is
Okay.
it cost more to do it, to move more lines or less lines or anything like that?
No?
Nah,
No,
just a
this-
map, right?
Okay, well, this one, it looks logical. I mean, you're in District 4, you're bringing that part into their areas on the other side of
434.
434.
Makes sense.
and then Josh,
Okay.
if you go down to the one that was District 5 absorbed, yeah, and show the satellite imagery.
This one right here?
Yeah, what's that little?
So the backyards of these houses right here backed up to this line. So I just felt like it made sense to put this one in 5.
Is that Geek Creek over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Anybody-
I'd say some of these lines look like better. Can you flick to District 3 there along like Northern Way and Winter Springs Boulevard?
Yeah, I'd like to see those too. Any comments or questions on what we've seen so far? All right.
Other than the one that we're looking at brings us to the most even split of the 5 districts.
Yeah, so like that is putting, what is that the tennis villas? They used to like be in part of the other district and now they'll be in District 3, like that kind of makes sense anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's Northern Way there. Yeah. Like, I don't know why why would that have been a different call out before anyway, you know?
Okay. So that moves from 2 to 3,
Right,
and then the other one moves from 3 to 2?
right. on
And
West
what does
End.
that encompass in there?
Is that Trotwood? Trotwood.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I say, it almost makes more
Okay.
sense, you know?
and what's the little, you got a little tiny piece on the southeast corner there of District now 2.
That's that subdivision, I can't remember, Mr. Blake would probably know the name, that's split on Winter Springs
Yeah.
Boulevard.
So that one was in 3, but it's cut off by a creek. So I feel like it made more sense to go into 2.
That seems like it makes good sense
Right,
too.
that's what I'm saying, I'm looking at those, like, that probably is more aligned with Seneca.
What's the street?
What's the name of that?
I don't know what, it's Chestnut or
Yeah,
something?
Chestnut,
Is
I
it
think,
Chestnut,
yeah,
I think?
that sounds,
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Chestnut Estates or something, but it's a very, very small number of homes.
Yeah,
it's on both sides of Winter Springs, so it brings it all into one district.
right, that sounds like some of these didn't look like they got cut off right to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay, any
Mr. Chairman,
other-
I'm prepared to make a motion if there are no more questions or areas of
Yeah,
discussion.
let me just make sure, is there any other discussion from? Christian, do we need to get any public input before our motion? No? Okay. Commissioner Blake, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Make a motion that the Districting Commission adopts scenario 4, providing for the smallest deviation, either by district or gross deviation for voting age population be adopted for the redistricting commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Blake to adopt scenario number 4, and it's seconded by Commissioner Hovey.
You have to have public input, and I know there's
And now,
no
do we?
members of the public, but we'll need to.
okay, before we vote, anyone from the public would like to address the commission? Seeing none, hearing none, I will close public input and turn it over to Christian.
Thank you. Commissioner Blake.
Aye.
Commissioner Francis.
Aye, if you didn't hear it.
Thank you. Commissioner Francis. Aye. Okay. Commissioner Hovey.
Aye.
Commissioner Lambie.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kendrick.
Aye.
And Chair Gallo.
Aye. Well, it's scenario number 4, adopted unanimously by the commission. Moving along on the agenda? No reports?
There's one other item of business, though, because since you've selected a map, so what happens now is that will be put into ordinance form. We have a standard ordinance, the map, it'll be presented to the city commission in the near future. So that, in effect, completes the task that you were assigned. So the last order of business is Mr. Chairman, I would suggest ask the board to make a motion to authorize you to sign the minutes, so we don't need to come back for
Reconvene.
approval.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hovey and a second by Commissioner Blake to authorize the chairman to sign the minutes of the meeting to close out this issue.
For that, I think I'm good to say all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none. Thank you.
Okay. No objections. It passes unanimously. No more, any public input one more time? There is none? I guess our business is done. The District Committee for 2025 is adjourned.
He just wanted to.
Well done, Chairman.
Easy peasy.